as a top player, Skip. And I agree with him. I think he should be on the list. I think he should be higher than some of the guys, the Tannehills and the Cousins. He was higher than those guys. I'm disappointed walking to him that wasn't on the list. I think that
so
was
far. Maybe he will be.
They said they only had 5. They said the Eagles had 5 players on the list. They've already named all their 5.
Is that true? That's over?
Well, that's what I was reading the Philly thing, a thing out of Philly yesterday, and it said they were supposed to have 5 guys. And so
Carson Wentz did not make the top 100 NFL players as voted upon by the NFL players.
That's what it looks like to me. But Skip, I think the thing is when you look at Dak, he was 5th in QBR. He was 2nd in passing yards. He was 4th in touchdowns. It's hard to say that he's not a top player. I think the thing is, Skip, is that once he developed the consistency, because when you look at what he has offensively, I believe had he gotten this team into the playoffs, Dak's going to be in the 30s. He might be in the 20s. You cannot have Zeke, a top 5 back. You can't have Amari. You can't have Gallup and miss the playoffs with that offensive line. Even if your defense isn't that good, Skip, you've got to be able to get into shootouts and win shootouts. And for whatever reason, Dak was unable to do that. And so I think they hold that against him, Skip. But I believe that once, because as you mentioned, his first year, obviously coming in as a rookie, you're not going to be ranked. But they thought so much of him the next year that he was 14th.
No, that was off his rookie year. Yes.
So that goes to show you what they thought of him. And I believe, Skip, had he made the playoff, Skip, there's no question in my mind. With the stats that he put up, Dak's going to be in the 20s or the 30s. But he deserves to be on the list. I believe Dak is a better quarterback right now as we sit here than he was when he was ranked 14th. Because, Skip, the offense flowed through Zeke then. They asked Dak to do a lot more now than they did then. And I believe he's doing a great job of that. He just needs to develop the consistency. And you cannot, with that offensive talent, not make the playoffs. That's unacceptable. And that goes directly at the feet of the quarterback.
So, for the record, I want to remind our viewers, the man who just spoke, 7 times in the last 13 Cowboy games last year, the man who just spoke glowingly of Dak Prescott gave him Fs.
Yeah.
He gave him 7 Fs in 13 games.
Oh, well, now that I look at it, Skip, Cousins should be higher.
Really? Cousins should be higher than Dak?
He beat him. Okay. You told me the guys head-to-head. Josh Allen beat him head-to-head. That's what you told me.
You know what? Kirk Cousins did not beat Dak head-to-head because in those last 13 games, the best game he played by far was against Minnesota on I believe, Sunday night. And again, at the end of the game, after he drove them all the way down to 2nd and 2 at the 11, after completing an 8-yard pass to Amari, and Amari was on fire, obviously at home that night. They took the ball out of Dak's hands and went Zeke, 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 game over, because he was about to go win the game against the Vikings. So I thought that was the best game he played over the last 13. He started out with 3 very strong games against what you called garbage teams, and I'll give you that. And then after that, Pro Football Focus ranked him in the last 13 games 15th in the league, which is about in the middle of the pack. Okay, so here's my gut feeling and my reaction to all of the above. I sat here exactly 1 year ago when this list was finished being unveiled on NFL Network, and I went out of my mind crazy nuts. And I said, there is no way that Rain Dakota Prescott, Rain, R-E-I-G-N, Rain Dakota Prescott, does not belong in the top 100 players in this league. And what was he coming off the year before? They were voting on a guy who did get Amari at midseason the year before and took off. And in the last 10 games of that year, I'm going back 2 years ago to the 2018 season. Over the last 10 games of that year, he led the league in completions. I can make a case that after he got Amari, he was the best quarterback in pro football down the stretch and into the playoffs. In the first playoff game at home, he outplayed Russell Wilson. I dare you to show me he didn't outplay Russell Wilson. He beat him with his arm and then in the end with his legs. And they won the game 24-22 and came here to Los Angeles, where Dak outplayed Jared Goff. QBR was 74-54. Dak over Jared Goff. He played well enough to win a game that the defense spat up, just choked it up because they couldn't stop either Gurley or your little man from Denver, little CJ Anderson. They couldn't stop either one of them, and they ran wild over, around, and through them that night. And still, Dak just kept fighting his guts out and kept them in that game, and they barely lost it by one score, 30-22. And off that run, Dak gets voted out of the top 100. And I went out of my mind because you know how I feel about quarterbacks. If you know the game and you appreciate the impact of that position, it's the most important. I can't go more important than pitcher in baseball, but it's right up there with pitcher in baseball. Right. So the point is, you can't tell me that every starting quarterback shouldn't be in the top 100 somewhere because of the virtue of the position they play. So my point is, how can you go from Dak ranks 14th off his rookie year? And what did I tell you? I said, I thought he had the greatest rookie season I've ever seen a rookie play because he gets thrown into the fire in place of Tony Romo, who was beloved in Cowboy Nation. Right. And here they go, and they go 13-3. Right. And he threw for 305 yards and 3 touchdowns against Aaron Rodgers and company. And it took 2 intergalactic field goals to beat him from 56 yards and 51 yards for them to pull that out of the fire at Jerry World in the playoff game. So off that, they say, he's the 14th best player in the league. And I'm like, thank you. I agree. And then he goes 2 straight years voted out of the top 100. Out! How do you do that? It's impossible. So how do you go from 2018 being maybe the best quarterback in football the last 10 games, you go from out of the top 100 to last year, you go 8-8, and you don't make the Pro Bowl, and the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp gives you Fs for 7 of your last 13 games, but you suddenly, mysteriously, inexplicably vault all the way from out of the top 100 to 46. You vault up 54 places. I don't even know how far out of the top 100 he was. He might have been 150th.
They will change it to the top 150.
Yeah, top 150. Yeah, so he vaults all the way up to 46th. And when this hit my screen last night, I had it on, I just fell out of my chair. I said, how do you do that? How do you explain that he went all the way up to 46 off a year in which he did not play great down the stretch last year, and he did not go to the Pro Bowl, and they did not go to the playoffs. So how do you justify it? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, but I got a theory. I believe that Dak Prescott turned into last year a sympathetic figure among players. Among players in the league, he became the #1 sympathetic figure in all of pro football because Jerry done him wrong. I don't think Jerry did him that wrong. I think Dak did it to himself. But most players, maybe every player I heard talk publicly about this, what did we keep hearing? Pay the man. Yeah, pay the man. Right. Pay the man. Pay him what? Pay him Mahomes money? Well, there's this thing called a cap. So how realistic are you to say, pay the man what he's asking for? Really? Pay him $45 million?
And the play, look, I don't believe it's because of sympathy. I think that when you look at it, Skip, he was 5th in QBR, he was 2nd in pass yards, he was 4th in touchdowns. That's worth something because at the end of the day, it's still, the NFL is still based on stats. And you can accumulate those. It's hard for me to see a scenario where the top, 5, 6 running backs are not going to make this list. So you look at Dak's numbers, his number says, yeah, he should be on this list. Almost 5,000 yards. Yeah, he should be on this list, 5th in QBR. You love QBR. So his QBR said he was the 5th best quarterback in all of football.
Okay, so how was he not on the list a year ago? You were totally good with the list a year ago. Yeah. You said he doesn't belong on the list. Yeah. Well, how does he not? He played the last 10 games at the top of his position.
He played this year, Skip. Hold on. You said Zeke wasn't the same guy. Mm-hmm. That's what you said. Yeah. Zeke led the league in rushing. So I guess they looked at it like, well, man, Zeke doing all this thing. Zeke, this because of Zeke. You got them little bit of yards that you got because Zeke's running the ball and you play action. Well, this year they held Zeke down. That's what you tell me. And he had to do it all on his own because you said he never had Amari on the road. So now he's doing that with one hand tied behind his back. He doesn't have the running game he once had, and his #1 receiver can't get open on the road. Okay. So they factored that in. Okay.
I've told you all along, I still have Dak Prescott in the top 10 of quarterbacks. There are 32 starters, so top 10. I've got him 9th. Okay.
Go that high.
You wouldn't go that high, okay? But I would, and I'm trying to be objective about it. But if he's the 9th best quarterback, then clearly he's in the top 100 players because he's probably in the top 20 players if you're the 9th best quarterback by virtue of the power of the position.
Skip.
I'm sorry.
You and I, look, I get it. And when the players vote, it cares a little, and it hurts more. That's why
I agree.
That's why you hear them speak out when they get
That is
70
true.
or 80, because this is the player.